Judge Lionel Jefferson. The sun was still strong when Imani Jefferson stepped off the city bus on Union Avenue in Bakersfield, California. School had ended 30 minutes earlier, and she'd been waiting for her best friend, Zaria, to pick her up like they always did on Fridays. But Zaria's brother had the car, so the plan changed. Meet at the Arco on the corner, grab a snack and chill until her mom got off work. Imani wore her Ridgeview High sweatshirt, a gray hoodie with the Panther logo cracking slightly from too many washes. Her braids were pulled into a bun, and her AirPods were, and though only one was working. She scrolled through her phone, texting Zaria, *, here, where are you at? Behind her, a pickup truck rattled into the lot, music thumping low. A few people came and went, nothing unusual. She leaned against the wall near the ice machine, munching on flamin' hot Cheetos and sipping a Gatorade. That's when the black and white cruiser pulled in. She noticed him right away, not because he did anything dramatic, but because he stopped too fast, stared too long. The officer, later identified as Sergeant Rick Mallory, cut the engine and stepped out slowly. Imani lowered her bag of chips, eyebrows pinched. He walked toward her like he already had something on his mind. *, you waiting for someone? He asked, voice dry. Imani slipped out one AirPod. *, yes, sir. My friend's on the way. *, why are you standing here? You look like you're casing the place. She blinked. *, I'm just waiting. I go to school down the street. Mallory didn't move. *, you got ID? Imani hesitated. *, why? *, you're loitering. *, Imani swallowed hard and reached into her backpack. I wasn't, she started, but Mallory raised a hand. *, step away from the wall. Now, his tone changed sharp and loud. People at the pumps turned their heads. She looked up confused. *, I didn't do anything, sir. *, don't talk back. Hands where I can see him. Imani's stomach dropped. Her heart started thudding. She felt every pair of eyes on her. She put her hands out, one still clutching her ID. Mallory grabbed it from her, glanced at it, then tossed it on the hood. *, I asked if you were high. You'd look out of it? What? *, her voice cracked. No, I just my friend. He grabbed her wrist. Wait, she cried, panic bubbling up. *, why are you? Before she could finish, he spun her toward the cruiser, forcing her against the hood. The metal was hot, the chips dropped. Her Gatorade bottle rolled into the street. Stop resisting, Mallory barked. *, I'm not resisting, she screamed, voice now shaking. *, you're hurting me. Gasps broke out. Someone yelled, *, hey, what is he doing? A phone was lifted, then another. *, get it on camera. It's someone. Elle shouted, Monty's face pressed to the metal, tears spilling out of her right eye. She didn't know where to look, what to say. She'd never even been sent to the principal's office, and now she was being cuffed by a grown man twice her size in front of strangers. All she could think about was her father, not because she wanted him to fix it, but because she didn't want him to see her like this. The handcuffs snapped on, tight, too tight. Mallory pulled her upright. You match a description from a call I got, he said flatly. *, a call from who? Asked one of the bystanders. Imani looked around, trembling. He didn't get no call, she said quietly. *, he just saw me and decided. * Mallory ignored the comment. He opened the back of the cruiser, but the cameras were still rolling and more phones were coming out. But Mallory wasn't thinking about that, not yet. Inside the cruiser, the heat felt thicker. The air conditioning was off. Imani sat stiffly. In the back seat, wrists throbbing from the cuffs. Her backpack was still outside on the ground. Her phone, somewhere in the chaos, had been knocked from her hand. The door slammed shut behind her with a force that made her flinch. Through the tinted window, she could barely see the people gathering around some recording. Others trying to get answers from Mallory, who stood by the front of the car with a scowl, like he couldn't believe people were even questioning him. He wasn't answering anyone, not really, just saying phrases like, "We're handling it." And she matched the description, an asterisk back up, "or you'll be obstructing." Asterisk, a woman in scrubs stepped forward. "I saw the whole thing," she said, pointing. Asterisk, she wasn't doing anything but standing there, That's a child. Mallory didn't respond. He picked up Imani's backpack and tossed it into the passenger seat, then finally got into the car and radioed something quietly into his shoulder mic. Imani sat still. Her hands were behind her, aching. Her legs were shaking, but she didn't want to let herself cry again. She stared at the wire mesh in front of her, breathing shallowly. Mallory didn't look at her. He just started driving. "Sir," she managed. Asterisk, "Can I ask where we're going?" Asterisk, "Downtown?" Asterisk, "For what?" "I didn't do anything." Asterisk, "You matched a report of a suspicious individual seen lurking behind the station." Asterisk, "Lurking?" Her voice rose. Asterisk, Mallory's knuckles tightened on the wheel. "Listen," she said, trying to stay calm. Asterisk, "I'm 16. I go to Ridgeview. I've never been in trouble. You're making a mistake." Asterisk, but he didn't answer. He just kept driving. The cruiser pulled up outside the Bakersfield Police Department downtown. She'd only seen it once during a school field trip in 8th grade. It looked different now, colder, bigger. Mallory parked, got out, and opened the back door. Asterisk, "Let's go." Imani stepped out slowly, wincing as the cuffs dug into her wrists. The bright sunlight hit her face like a slap. She lowered her head as he guided her through the entrance. Every person they passed turned to looked some confused, others barely paying attention. At the desk, a younger officer raised his eyebrows. Asterisk, "Another one," he muttered, eyeing Mallory. Asterisk, "Suspicious activity, loitering, possibly under influence." Imani whipped her head toward him. Asterisk, "What?" Mallory ignored her again. Asterisk, "Will do a quick hold, then call the guardian. You can log her in." The officer hesitated. Asterisk, "You do a search already?" "Bags up front," Mallory replied. Asterisk, "She had no ID on her when I cuffed her." Imani said sharply. Asterisk, "That's not true. You took it from my hand and threw it on the hood." Asterisk, the young officer glanced between them. "Awkward now?" "Look," Imani said, voice trembling. Asterisk, "My name is Imani Jefferson. My dad is Judge Lionel Jefferson. Call him right now. You'll see." Asterisk, that made Mallory pause. He squinted. Asterisk, "Jefferson." "Yes." Asterisk, she snapped. Asterisk, "You know the name. Everybody here does." Asterisk, the front desk officer blinked, his posture straightening. Asterisk, "Wait, Judge Jefferson." "At the Superior Court?" Imani nodded quickly. Asterisk, "Yes. He's my dad. He's probably at work right now. His office is 4 minutes from here." Asterisk, Mallory's jaw clenched, but he still tried to play it off. Asterisk, "Kids throw names around all the time, then call in check." Asterisk, Imani shot back. Asterisk, "Go ahead." The officer at the desk reached for the phone. Mallory stepped back, fuming silently. Imani looked at him with all the strength she could muster. Asterisk, "You're gonna wish you didn't treat me like this." Asterisk, but it wasn't just about her anymore. The videos were already making the rounds in 2 different group chats. One among Ridgeview High students, and another among concerned parents. The footage had started to circulate. One clip had already hit TikTok with over 10,000 views in less than an hour, and someone had tagged Judge Lionel Jefferson. But that storm hadn't hit yet. Not quite. Judge Lionel Jefferson was halfway through a sentencing memo when his phone vibrated on the corner of his desk. He almost ignored it. It was a habit, especially when he was in writing mode, but something made him glance over. A notification from his niece popped up. Asterisk, "Uncle Lionel, is this Imani?" The link was to a video. Clicked it and there she was. His daughter pinned to a police cruiser, face turned toward the camera, expression twisted with confusion and pain. Her hoodie was bunched, her voice clear, cracking. Asterisk, "I didn't do anything." Didn't move for a second, just stared at the screen. Then he stood up. Within 10 minutes, he was in his car, his judicial robe still hanging on the back of his office door. He didn't call the station ahead. He didn't notify his assistant. He drove straight to the Bakersfield Police Department. In silence, gripping the steering wheel like it might snap, inside the precinct, chaos was brewing. The front desk officer had confirmed Imani's identity. Mallory was pacing in the hallway, trying to stay calm. He hadn't said much after hearing the name, but his silence said everything. And now, The captain had been called in. The front desk officer said nervously as the judge walked in. Asterisk, she's in the back. I tried. Sigh, I didn't know. Where is Sergeant Mallory? Asterisk, Jefferson asked, cutting him off. The officer pointed down the corridor. Asterisk, he's in the supervisor's office. Asterisk, Jefferson didn't wait. He found the door, knocked once, then opened it. Mallory stood by the window, arms folded. Captain Serena Hollow was seated at the desk, already reviewing body cam footage on a laptop. She stood up quickly when Jefferson entered. Judge Jefferson, she said carefully, I'm just getting briefed, asterisk. My daughter is in your custody. Asterisk, he said, voice even but tight. Asterisk, I want her released. Now. Hollow hesitated. Asterisk, we were just confirming the situation. Apparently there was a call, there was no call. Asterisk, Jefferson snapped. Asterisk, she was standing outside a gas station waiting for her friend. This man, asterisk, he pointed directly at Mallory. Asterisk, tackled and cuffed a minor without cause. Asterisk, Mallory opened his mouth to defend himself. You didn't know who she was? Jefferson cut him off. Asterisk, you didn't care. And now you're standing here pretending like this was just a miscommunication. Asterisk, Mallory tried again. Matched. There is no matching when you don't even speak to the person, Jefferson said. Asterisk, you saw a black girl with braids standing alone, and that was all you needed. The room went still. Captain Hollow glanced at Mallory. Rick, she said low. Asterisk, why don't you give us a moment? He hesitated now, she added. Mallory stepped out without a word. Jefferson took a breath, steadying himself. Asterisk, I've spent 23 years building credibility in this courthouse. I've sentenced murderers. I've signed off on indictments. I've advocated for juvenile rehabilitation programs. And now my daughter has to learn firsthand that none of that protects her from being humiliated by someone with a badge. Asterisk, Hollow, nodded slowly. Asterisk, you're right, and I'm sorry. She'll be released immediately. I'll initiate a review. I'll also contact Internal Affairs. Make sure that body cam footage is preserved. It is. I promise you. Asterisk, meanwhile, in the holding room, Imani sat alone. She'd stopped crying. Her eyes were red but dry now. She kept repeating her dad's phone number in her head like a mantra. When the door finally opened, she looked up and saw him. He stepped inside, his face composed but unreadable. He didn't say anything right away. Jess walked over and crouched in front of her. Asterisk, you okay? She nodded, barely. He reached for her hands, gently inspecting her wrists where the cuffs had left raw marks. Let's go, he said quietly, as they walked out. Every officer who saw them averted their eyes. Psst. One even stepped aside as the two passed. Outside, the heat hit again, but this time, the air felt different. Charged. Jefferson opened the car door for her, then got in behind the wheel. Neither of them spoke for several minutes. Finally, Imani whispered, Asterisk, I thought I was going to end. Up in a cell? Asterisk, he looked at her. No, you're not invisible, he said. Asterisk, you never were. And now the whole city's about to know that. Asterisk, but it wouldn't stop with the city. It was already spreading wider, faster than either of them expected. By the time they got home, the video had reached the news, not just local, regional, then national. It started with one clip from a teenager named Ebony Rivera, who'd been pumping gas and had the presence of mind to hit record when she saw Imani getting slammed against the cruiser. She uploaded it to Instagram and TikTok with the caption, Asterisk, he cuffed her like she was a grown man, no reason, just standing there eating chips. Asterisk, within hours, that clip had over 1.4 million views. Major pages picked it up. Hashtags formed and multiplied. Hashtag justice for Imana. Hashtag who protects black girls. Hashtag BPD accountability. Then came the screenshots, Mallory's face in every frame, still gripping her arm. When reporters figured out who she was, the daughter of Judge Lionel Jefferson, everything shifted. At the Jefferson home, the lights in the front room stayed on late. Phones rang nonstop. Imani sat curled up on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, her phone buzzing on the coffee table every 10 seconds. Her mom, Darlene, moved around the kitchen like she was trying to outrun her thoughts. She kept wiping down the same counter again and again. Judge Jefferson stood at the window, arms folded, phone pressed to his ear. Asterisk, no, I'm not speaking publicly. Not yet, asterisk, he said quietly. Asterisk, I don't want this to become a headline for your paper. This is my daughter. Another pause. Asterisk. No. I don't want a profile on me. I want an investigation on him. Asterisk, he ended the call. In the background, the TV played a loop of the footage on every station. Anchor after anchor repeated the same line. Asterisk 16-year-old Imani Jefferson, daughter of respected Superior Court Judge Lionel Jefferson, was forcibly detained outside a gas station by Bakersfield Police Sergeant Rick Mallory, sparking widespread outrage. The video made it to MSNBC, then CNN, then a panel on The View asterisk mentioned it. Imani's face half turned, eyes wide. Cheeks damp was now being dissected by strangers from coast to coast. Zaria texted her, asterisk girl, the whole school's talking about it. We got a walkout plan for Monday. Asterisk Imani read the message and locked her phone without replying. Her dad turned from the window. Asterisk, you okay with staying home the next few days? She nodded. Asterisk, you don't have to talk to anyone unless you want to. No interviews, no statements. We'll handle everything through our lawyer. I'm not scared, asterisk, she said softly. Asterisk, I know you're not. Asterisk, I'm embarrassed. Asterisk Jefferson looked at her for a long moment, then sat beside her, careful not to crowd her. Asterisk, you did nothing wrong. I froze, she said. Asterisk, I didn't even know what to say to him. I kept thinking, don't move too fast, don't argue, don't look like a threat, and he still treated me like asterisk. She didn't finish. Darlene came into the room and sat on Imani's other side, putting a hand on her knee. It shouldn't have happened, she said. Asterisk, but now people are watching. And your voice matters whether you use it today or next year. The next morning, Judge Jefferson's office issued a brief, stern statement. What happened to my daughter should never happen to any child. The law does not allow it. My position doesn't shield her from injustice in that truth is unacceptable. You're pursuing legal review and expect accountability, no exceptions. Asterisk, the response was swift. The Bakersfield Police Department announced that Sergeant Mallory had been placed on immediate administrative leave, pending an internal investigation. They cited growing community concern and the need for full transparency. Still, the Jeffersons didn't feel relief, not yet, because the internet wasn't just reacting, it was erupting. Old body cam footage of Mallory resurfaced, shaky clips of him pulling over black teens, yelling at a young Latino boy, rough handling a man outside a bowling alley. None had gained traction before now. They were stacked like kindling. Journalists dug into department records. Civil rights groups demanded a public apology. City council scrambled to respond. The police union issued a statement defending Mallory's record and service, which only added fuel to the fire. At Ridgeview High, Imani's classmates walked out of fourth period in silent protest, holding signs that read, I could be Imani, and asterisk stop policing black kids. Inside her bedroom, Imani watched it all from her laptop, jaw clenched, eyes clear. She didn't want to be a symbol, she wanted answers. And somewhere deep down, she wanted to face Mallory not for revenge, but because she needed to see if he would even look her in the eye, but she wouldn't have to wait long, because public pressure was building and the city couldn't ignore it anymore. The morning Sergeant Rick Mallory was formally identified by the department. His neighbors in East Bakersfield found TV vans parked outside his house. By lunchtime, a dozen reporters were waiting at the curb, mics and notepads in hand, watching his driveway like hawks. But Mallory didn't come out. Instead, a carefully worded email went out through the Bakersfield Police Department's media office. Asterisk, Sergeant Rick Mallory has been placed on administrative leave. The department is cooperating fully with the independent review panel announced earlier this morning. We urge the public to withhold judgment until all facts are reviewed. Asterisk, it sounded official, it sounded reasonable, but it didn't satisfy anyone because Something much bigger was already brewing behind the scenes. Quietly, powerfully, Judge Lionel Jefferson had pulled every string he had not to get revenge. Not to protect his title, but to demand full accountability through official, public channels. He requested a full briefing from the chief of police, called in civil rights lawyers from Sacramento. Most importantly, he contacted the state attorney general's office, invoking a rarely used procedural review that allowed the state to investigate a local police department for discriminatory patterns. He did it not as a father, but as a legal authority, with a clean record and a long memory. And suddenly, the case wasn't just a local scandal, it was a state matter. That night, Jefferson held a press conference outside the courthouse. The building behind him glowed in the evening sun, tall and square, its steps usually quiet by that hour, but not tonight. Reporters crowded the steps. Police officers lingered near barricades. Dozens of community members stood by, some holding signs, others just watching, arms crossed, faces tense. Judge Jefferson stepped up to the microphones wearing a dark navy suit, tie straight, jaw set. But his voice was almost calm. Asterisk, my daughter was handcuffed by a public servant who did not recognize her as a human being. To him, she was not a child, not a student, not a citizen, just a problem to be handled. Asterisk, he paused, letting the silence stretch. Cameras clicked. Asterisk, she told him who she was. She was respectful. She followed instructions. He didn't listen. Asterisk, another pause.
Asterisk.
But that's not the most dangerous part of this story. The danger lies in how many times this could have happened without anyone noticing. How many other children have been treated this way and didn't have a parent with a title behind their name? Asterisk, the crowd shifted. Jefferson looked directly into one of the cameras. Asterisk, I'm not here as a judge tonight. I'm here as a father. And as a father, I'm telling you, I will not let this go. Not because I want headlines, but because I want change. One reporter stepped forward, voice raised. Asterisk, Judge Jefferson, are you calling for Sergeant Mallory to be fired? He met her eyes. Asterisk, I'm calling for something bigger. I'm calling for this department to be audited. For every officer's record, to be reviewed for real, enforced oversight. And yes, if that leads to his dismissal, so be it. Asterisk, the crowd murmured in agreement. Someone clapped. Another reporter asked, Asterisk, has the department reached out to you personally? No, Jefferson said. Asterisk. And at this point, I'm not waiting for an apology. I'm waiting for action. Asterisk, back at the Jefferson house, Imani watched the live stream on her phone. She was curled up in the armchair near the window, a blanket tucked around her legs. Zaria sat beside her, silent, phone face down on her lap. Your dad is wild, Zaria said after a moment. Asterisk, like, I know he's serious at work, but I've never seen him like that. Asterisk, Imani didn't answer right away. Her face was still. He's mad, she finally said. Asterisk, he's more than mad. He's coming for that whole building. Zaria nodded once. Good. Asterisk, outside, a group of neighbors had gathered on the Jeffersons' lawn. Some knocked gently on the door just to say they were praying. Others dropped off baked goods, cards, or envelopes with handwritten notes. One man, Mr. Terrence from down the block, shook Lionel's hand later that night and said, Asterisk, it's not just your fight anymore. Jefferson looked him in the eye and said, It never was. Asterisk, but no one knew yet just how deep the department's problems were. How many people had been waiting for someone like Judge Jefferson to say it out loud by the end of the week? Bakersfield wasn't just reacting, it was reckoning. The police chief, under mounting pressure, stood before reporters and confirmed what many suspected. Sergeant Rick Mallory had a record, not a criminal one, but a pattern of complaints dating back over a decade, none of which had ever led to disciplinary action, 7 excessive force reports, 3 civilian complaints for aggressive conduct with minors, 1 internal memo recommending de-escalation training which had been ignored. The room went quiet when that was read aloud. The chief adjusted his glasses and added, Asterisk, the department is conducting a full internal review, and we welcome external oversight. Asterisk, but nobody was clapping. No one nodded in agreement. Because outside that very building, more than 200 people had gathered for what was now the fourth day of protest. Not riots, not chaos. Just people, teachers, students, business owners marching slowly through the streets of Bakersfield with handmade signs and a steady chant that echoed through every street corner. Asterisk, protect our kids. Justice for Imani. Hold him accountable. Asterisk inside. City Hall, meetings turned tense. The mayor held private talks with Judge Jefferson, local activists, and school leaders. Pressure was mounting from state officials, civil rights lawyers, and even some federal voices. And while all of that swirled above them, Imani tried to reclaim some piece of normal. She sat at the kitchen table that Sunday, trying to finish a short paper for her AP English class, something about truth and narrative voice of mice and men, but her mind kept drifting. Her hands hovered over the keyboard, then stopped. Darlene walked by and set a fresh mug of tea next to her. Asterisk, want me to proofread it when you're done? Asterisk, Imani gave her a weak smile. Asterisk, maybe. I'm not even sure what I'm saying yet. Asterisk. Asterisk. That's... okay. Just start. It doesn't have to be perfect. Asterisk, across town, Mallory stayed holed up in his home. Camera crew camped out nearby, hoping for a statement, but nothing came. His lawyer released a single sentence to the press. Asterisk, Sergeant Mallory denies any wrongdoing and maintains that he followed procedure. Asterisk, the silence was louder than the words. People began to speak out. Teachers who'd seen him harass students walking home. A grocery clerk who remembered him grabbing a kid by the hoodie outside a Family Dollar. A mother who said he once interrogated her 14-year-old son in front of his classmates for acting suspicious in a parking lot. None of them filed official complaints at the time. They didn't think anyone would listen. But now, they were being asked. Finally, at Ridgeview High, a group of seniors launched a petition. Asterisk, we want real safety. It called for youth advisors on policing policy, an education program on rights during encounters, and a formal apology from the Bakersfield Police Department. Within 72 hours, it had over 18,000 signatures, many from people outside the city. Even outside the state, Judge Jefferson didn't say much during that stretch. He attended meetings, answered calls from law professors, civil rights groups, and reporters, but at home, he kept it quiet, tensional, focused. One night, he found Imani sitting on the back porch, her legs folded up under her, blanket wrapped around her shoulders. She stared into the dark, eyes unfocused. "You're not sleeping?" he asked. She shook her head. Asterisk, not really. Asterisk, he sat beside her. Asterisk, you ever wish you weren't a judge? She asked. He thought about that. Asterisk, some days, yeah, because people expect too much. Because sometimes it means I have to sit still when everything in me wants to act. Asterisk, Imani looked at him. Asterisk, you're not sitting still now. Asterisk, asterisk, no, asterisk, he said. Asterisk, not anymore. Asterisk, the wind rustled the trees gently. The hum of distant traffic reached them, but neither of them moved. Asterisk, do you want to say something? He asked after a moment. Asterisk, to the people, to your classmates? Asterisk, she took a deep breath. Asterisk, I don't want to be a headline. Asterisk, asterisk, I get that. But maybe I need to say it out loud. Just once. For other girls. Asterisk, he nodded slowly. Asterisk, that's your decision. When you're ready. Asterisk, but Imani wouldn't get much time to decide, because the public hearing was now set for Friday. Her name was already on the witness list. By the time Friday came, Bakersfield didn't feel like the same city. The courthouse lawn had been transformed. Folding chairs lined the grass. Two podiums stood in front of a temporary canopy. Behind them, a banner read, Community Hearing on Police Accountability in clean, bold letters. This wasn't just a show for TV, this was public pressure turned into policy. City officials, police representatives, school board members, clergy, lawyers, and ordinary residents were all present, not in suits and ties, not hiding behind press releases. They were here to face each other, to listen, to speak. And sitting in the second row between her parents was Imani Jefferson. She wore a navy blue blouse, her braids freshly redone by her aunt the night before. Her hands rested on her knees, fingers interlaced, shoulders squared. People kept stealing glances at Hersom, smiled gently. Others just nodded. Those kinds of nods that aren't about words, just respect. Pastor Alton Cares from the Eastside Baptist Church was the first. To speak, he didn't pull punches. "We've heard too many excuses," he said. Asterisk, "We've seen too many reports under review. Bakersfield isn't the same town it was 30 years ago, and our policies shouldn't be either." Asterisk, next came a local teacher, then a public defender, then a teenage boy named Malik Winfield, who shared how Mallory once followed him for 4 blocks because he asterisk fit the description of someone who looked nervous. The crowd listened, no outbursts, just stillness and quiet fury. Then the moderator approached the mic again. Asterisk, "We now invite Imani Jefferson to speak. She feels ready." Asterisk, Imani stood. The microphone seemed taller than she remembered. Palms were damp, but when she started speaking, her voice didn't waver. Asterisk, "My name is Imani Jefferson. I'm 16. I go to Ridgeview High, and I want to say something I didn't get to say that day." She paused. Asterisk, "That man, Officer Mallory, looked at me and didn't see a student. He didn't see someone's daughter. He saw a threat, and I've been asking myself why ever since." You could hear a pin drop. I stayed calm. "I did what?" "I was taught to do," I answered respectfully. I kept my hands where he could see them, and it didn't matter. That's what scares me the most. Asterisk, she glanced at her dad in the audience. He looked back, calm and steady. Asterisk, I know I got lucky not because of who my dad is, but because there were cameras, because people spoke up. But what about the kids who don't get filmed? Who get cuffed and forgotten? Asterisk, the moderator nodded gently. Asterisk, you can stop there if you'd like. Asterisk, Imani shook her head. Asterisk, I'm not just asking for him to be fired. I'm asking for y'all to stop pretending this is new. It's not. Just record it now. Asterisk, a wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd. When she stepped down, people stood and clapped, not loud and dramatic, but long and firm. The kind of applause you give someone who said what you've been thinking for years. Later that day, City Council announced 3 key actions. 1. A civilian review board would be created with voting power on officer discipline. Cases 2. Body cam footage would be made public in all future force complaints within 10 days. 3. The department would implement a mandatory retraining program focused on youth interaction, racial bias, and trauma response. It wasn't everything, but it was. More than Bakersfield had seen in decades. Still, there were those who pushed back. A local police union rep went on talk radio that evening, claiming the reforms were reactionary and setting an asterisk dangerous precedent. Some residents said Mallory was asterisk just doing his job. Online comments, too, turned bitter in some corners, calling Imani a tool, or asterisk a judge's puppet. Asterisk Imani read some of it, then shut her laptop. They don't know me, she told her mom that night. Sitting on the couch with her legs tucked under her, Darlene said, asterisk, and they never will. She squeezed her daughter's hand. Asterisk, you already said what matters. Asterisk outside, protest signs leaned against fences. Chalk messages lined the sidewalks near City Hall. Asterisk, we see you, Imani. Asterisk black. Girls deserve to be safe. Keep fighting. Asterisk. But one last truth hadn't come to light yet. Mallory's past was about to catch up with him in a way no one expected. Monday morning arrived with no warning. Porters were still unpacking gear. When the email dropped official notice from the Bakersfield Police Department, asterisk. An internal affairs hearing regarding Sergeant Rick Mallory is now scheduled for 9 a.m. today. The proceedings will include testimony from internal investigators and recently reviewed complaint records. No press allowed inside, no live stream. Asterisk, but that didn't stop the buzz. By 8:15, the sidewalk outside police headquarters was already thick with media vans, protesters, legal observers, and a handful of quiet onlookers who just wanted to see what happened next. Judge Lionel Jefferson arrived through a back entrance, not because he was trying to avoid cameras, but because he didn't want to be the focus. The focus was Mallory. The hearing room was a small space, too small for what was unfolding. 3 panelists sat at the front. 1 internal affairs officer, a city-appointed legal expert, and an outside consultant brought in after the scandal broke. Mallory sat across from them in uniform, arms folded across his chest. No badge, no gun, just the nameplate still stitched above his pocket. His lawyer, a man named Trevor Donnelly, did most of the talking. Sergeant Mallory acted within his interpretation of protocol. Donnelly began. He received a vague complaint about a suspicious individual and acted quickly in a tense environment. He had no knowledge of the individual's identity, nor any malicious intent. The lead investigator raised an eyebrow. Why wasn't that call recorded? There's no dispatch log for that complaint. Donnelly hesitated. It may have been a tip passed along verbally. There's no audio? No. The second panelist cut in. No video. And your client's body cam was turned on only after the detention began. A pause filled the room. Mallory finally spoke. I believed I was dealing with a situation that could escalate. She was eating chips. The consultant said bluntly. And standing still. The real blow came 30 minutes later when the panel shifted focus to his record. One by one, they pulled up prior complaints, grainy videos, written statements, all dismissed at the time, but now under new scrutiny. They painted a clear picture. An officer who saw threats, where there were none especially. When it came to teenagers of color, there was the time he pinned a 12-year-old against a vending machine. At a roller rink, the time he pulled a 16-year-old from his bike because he looked high. The mother who said her son couldn't sleep for 2 weeks after Mallory screamed in his face. Each time the same pattern. No charges filed, no de-escalation used, no body cam footage until after the confrontation started. You've been protected for a long time, the panelist said. But we're not protecting you now. Mallory's lawyer pushed back. You're trying to make him the face of a systemic issue. That's unfair. He didn't create the system. It's no. The lead panelist said. It's but he used it. The hearing ended just after 11 a.m. The department released a statement at noon. Sergeant Rick Mallory has been officially suspended without pay, pending final termination review. All prior complaints against him are being reopened for further legal evaluation. That news hit fast and hard.